and welcome to the Real Missing Piece podcast. I'm Cheryl, and Candace is here with me. And we're so excited that we get to record this podcast. Thank you to God for giving us this platform to record this podcast and share stories with you. Um, the Real Missing Piece came to us in a lot of different ways. And we're just so excited. If you were here before, we were the Besties on Purpose, and now we are creating the Real Missing Piece community. And I'm just so excited. How are you feeling, Candace?
Yes, I was gonna see if you were gonna go there, maybe later, but we'll go there now. Besties on Purpose. Cheryl pointed it out to me. It was like us with us, and you guys were like able to watch and like be there, but it wasn't really the invitation for all, and that's the difference we're hoping to bring here at the Real Missing Piece. We want to bring you our bestie energy, but we want to invite it to be an open invitation for everyone. So with that said, I am beyond excited. I can't wait. I'm just so, everything is just feeling completely divinely aligned.
Yes. And we're so glad you're here. And if you aren't part of the Facebook group, the Real Missing Piece community, join the Facebook group. And if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube. And we're going to just give you a lot of God content. And I'm just so excited to share it all with you. And we're just inviting you to have an open heart and open mind and come along this journey with us, because that's kind of where we were in the beginning. So we're going to talk about in the beginning. I'm just kidding. And
God.
so I'm just so excited for this journey. And in the beginning, we're going to talk about two kind of concepts here of, do you believe in God or believe God? And when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's basically what we want to talk about on our first podcast, because I think that's where we were in our journey. I believed in God, and I grew up in the Catholic Church, and it was just somewhere where my family went, where all of my family went in San Diego. And so we had parties with rosaries, we had parties with masses, and it was just something part of our culture. And I believed there was a God, and believed God. And so a lot of things happened, but I kind of want Candace to share her story first, because she kind of like started it with me too. So go ahead, Candace. You start.
You're nuts and follow me. No, I'm just kidding. Sort of. Okay, so for everyone who is new here and doesn't know me, I grew up with divorced parents, and both of them believed in God, attending different churches. And so I called myself just a Christian for the longest time, because my dad went to a church, which I don't think I even said this to Cheryl before. It was called Disciples of Christ. And that denomination went away whenever I believe we were in like high school and maybe college. And so the closest denomination they found was Baptist. And then my mom's parents, so I grew up a lot with my grandparents on both sides, my dad and my mom. And my mom's parents, her dad and stepmom, would take me and my brother Alex when we were really young, almost every other weekend. And so we were in Pentecostal churches with them. And I went to non-denominational churches with my mom off and on. And then I fell in love with Catholic boys along the way and went to Catholic churches. So I literally was dipping my toe in all the water. So I definitely believed in God my whole life. Like, I believed in him. I will say I did what I feel like is or was, hopefully it's not is. Let's take out the is. It was the trend in society when you go to college. Like, you still believe in God, but you're going to go have the college experience. And I'm using air quotes if you're listening to us. if you're listening to us on just the audio side. But yeah, so I still even believed in God then. I still went to churches, but it just I wasn't in relationship with him. I actually didn't even know that was like a thing until almost 40, right? I think it was right before
40
maybe.
years.
I know, it's crazy. I think it was so I always grew up with a sciencey mind, like math and science were always strong suits for me. And when even I remember being in high school and when you hear about Darwinism and all that other stuff, I was like, that doesn't seem right. But there is science, and like God gives us the ability to learn through science, through our brains, through everything. And now there's technology, amazing technology. I'm so grateful I live in this day and age. And so my brain was always like, these two things, science and spirituality, they don't feel like they should be separate because God is above it all. So like it's all God's. And yesterday Cheryl and I were doing like a dreaming with God session together, and we were visioning, and afterwards I realized that it was that nature in me that kind of drove me to, well, God connected it behind the scenes. I didn't really know my first coach was actually a believer in God. I just was like, let me learn these cool, modalities and energy clearings and everything. I think that's kind of cool on the sciencey side, but I'm going to bring in God. I just had said that in my head. And then I realized, like, into sessions with her, that she believed in God too. And she did the same thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to learn how to do this. And so through her, and then I had another coach that came and gifted me sessions that was awesome. And I was walking after one of my sessions with her, and I had just worked with my other coach, Jen Marie, and I was walking to let the dogs out, and we had this like 2 steps down to a landing to our back door, and then you would turn the corner and go down to the basement. So I was walking down those 2 steps, and I'm not a very actual vision person in my head. I have like sensations and like thoughts about a vision, but not always see a picture. And on this particular day, as I'm taking those 2 steps to let the dogs out, wasn't trying to think about anything. I had this vision of my life as a chessboard, and God's hand, this big hand, was like moving the pieces. And it was like, it felt like 5 minutes, and it was 30 seconds, 2 steps to get to the door. And I was like, it was like God was showing me, I have purposefully moved all these pieces of the chessboard to put you where you are right here, right now. And I'm giving myself God bumps. And that was like part 1. And then, so that was like, okay, cool. I'm on the right. Like, that was really cool to like experience that. And later that summer, we moved across the country, and I was coaching, and everyone who knows, like, the closet's behind me. It was early morning. I was calling a student. They didn't answer. And I'm in between sessions, and I'm just sitting there with God in my closet. And I hear, share your faith. And I was like, I do share my faith. And I heard boldly, and I was like, oh, I guess I really wouldn't say I do it boldly. I kind of do it where it's welcome, So that's that fall, like just a few months later, not many. I was like, okay, maybe. Then Cheryl and I went to a conference together, and during the conference on stage, I know I've heard people talking about, God in the past, but like this year, it didn't feel like they were talking about him as much, but I was still hearing and connecting dots. Like God was talking to me in my brain while people were on the stage. And what I was hearing in the 2 days of general sessions was, bring me into your business. And I was like, okay. I mean, I've heard it before. It wasn't anything new, but it was like different this time. And then Sunday, we went to the optional church service, and right before we moved, not before we moved, right before this conference, we had gone through our mugs before we moved from Virginia to Washington. And so we'd already cleaned out a lot of them, but there was one mug that must have been living at the back of our cabinet because it made it. And I was unpacking literally the week before. I think it was like the week before we left. I was unpacking the mugs, and I looked, and this navy blue mug had like 3 specks on it. And it was really nice, sturdy coffee mug, and I have a very unhealthy addiction with coffee mugs. And I was like, okay, Candace, it's time to let this thing go. And it used to say, don't give up the ship. And it was from my husband's from the Naval, went through the Naval Academy. He's a naval aviator. And so I was like, okay, I'm a Maria Kondo this thing. So I'm over the trash can holding the mug, and I'm like, hold it close to my heart. Thank you. And then just gently place it in the trash can. And I go, we'll just have to find another one. So we go to this service on Sunday, and the service, I walk in, and we're finding a seat, and then a song comes on that I had never heard before, because at this point we're mainly going to Catholic churches, and we were not in non-denominational churches. I wasn't really listening to Christian radio or Christian music. And it was More Than Able by Elevation Worship. And there was a song on it, or a verse of the lyrics said, "Who am I to deny what the Lord can do?"
Oh
And
my
in that moment, that was my breaking point. Yeah, she was like, oh yeah, that's why you started crying? Yeah, that's why I started crying. Because he had told me to share my faith boldly, and I'm like, but, and he's like, who am I to deny what the Lord can do? So I'm like, I'm a puddle. Okay. Songs, we're only on worship, you guys. And then later the pastor comes on, and his lesson is, the storm has its purpose. And I'm like, well, I don't really feel like I'm in any storms, but I'm a coach. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to start taking notes. And long story very short, we can talk about the storm and its purpose later. But during that, I kid you not, he was talking about his journey of like developing this sermon. And lo and behold, on the screen, he puts up this picture of a coffee mug that says, don't give up the ship.
Oh my
Done.
gosh.
Just call Candace the well done steak, because I lose it. I lose it. So I am that friend that will go to the altar when they do the altar call, like almost every time, just because I feel like there's some energy there that feels like it's like Holy Spirit energy. And so I was in the middle of the row, which I normally wouldn't walk over people, but I was like, I'm losing it, and God's calling, so here I go. And I went, and I was like, okay, I will share my faith boldly. And Cheryl was sitting there, and I walked over Cheryl to get there, and she could tell her side of that story. So that was kind of the first big point for me. And then I'm going to make this one a lot shorter. This one is, I feel like that was like the biggest part of like, okay, God, I'm going to really start walking it out with you. And so I started sharing my faith boldly, even in times where it didn't feel like it was easy to do with coaching clients. Even in public places here where I live isn't the most, I'm not in the South. And God was always with me. And not more importantly, equally as important, I had two good friends, Cheryl being one of them, and then another one, who were very inspired by my actions to start journeying closer with God and Jesus. But then like that next year, Cheryl, myself, and our other friend Amy, we were all turning 40 within like 6 months, 7, 8 months, I guess, with Cheryl's birthday to Amy's birthday. So we found this 40-40 challenge. And that was my journey with the Bible, because it started me in John, the book of John. And instead of Genesis, which we're going to have many other episodes on that. So that was the Bible. So following Jesus, obeying what he was calling me was the conference. The Bible was that. Not Jesus, I'll say God, like obeying God was the first one. The Bible was the 40-40 challenge. And then I went to another conference in the following July, which was last July, 2024. And there were signs leading up to going there. And then while I was there, things happened that were undeniably God. And I was like, all right, this community you've been talking to me about probably for like a year and a half, I'm ready. I don't know why I have an alarm going off. Oh yes, I do. Walk with Jesus Wednesday. And so I was like, okay, that's it, God, I'm done. I will do what you call me to build this community, and you guys will find we've been through phases already so far, but this is it. We know this is it. And And that, when I came back from that conference, was when I started journeying. Like, I was like, Jesus as my best friend. That was when I started journeying with Jesus, and we led from there. So those are my big points. What about you?